So I played football professionally. I had a decision to make from being a one-man band to then bigger version of the first gym to now going second gym. So we went from 130 clients to 220 clients in just over a year. So we're doing something right.
This week we're joined by Dan Moore, based in Inverness. Now Dan owns a very successful gym and is now planning on opening his second.
Going from 1 to 2 almost feels harder than opening your first gym. Because I think you open your first gym totally ignorant to anything and you don't know much. You're young, you spend so much time, you build the one gym to this point, it takes 5-6 years, you know what goes into it.
We dive into everything that he's done to get to where he is today.
Like when we then actually did a price rise, probably between 5 and 10% on average, I guess with electricity and whatnot, it was unavoidable. At the end of the day, you'll end up resenting your business because you don't get anything out of it, because you can't feed your family or live the life you want to live, and that's what you go into business for. So it totally goes against the grain of, I guess, why you started a business.
But also take a real deep dive into the mindset that is needed to be a successful gym owner. You released a book recently. Or on Amazon right now?
Yeah.
Also, did you give this to clients when they sign up as well?
Yeah, what I wanted to do was have a good lead magnet. It was different. I always look at people that had books instead of a pedestal. I spent too much time obsessing about the customer journey, and I'm still obsessed with the customer journey, by the way, but I now realise the importance of the staff journey. Like, you're not doing the gym for ego. It's not cool to say you have a gym if it's not profitable.
We hope you enjoy. Dan, thank you for joining us. I think you currently hold the record for furthest travel to come into the podcast studio, so thank you for being on the show. How are you doing?
Good, yeah, all good. Pleasure to be here. It's definitely a good thing you've got going here. I think I actually thought after the last mastermind why you didn't do a podcast, so it made sense.
This has been called the podcast room for about 2 years now, and we've just used it for loads of other stuff, but it was always made for the podcast, but things kept on getting in the way. But we're here now. We're here today, live and ready to go.
You've got it.
That's it. So first question for you. Why did you get into the fitness industry, and why are you still here?
I initially played football from school, so I played football professionally. I left school, had 6 years as a professional player at Ross County, and then I transitioned from basically full-time football. I didn't get a contract in my last year at Ross County, so I had to then decide what to do in my life. I had offers to go and play. I think I could have gone to some mates went to Australia. I had an offer from Malta, I think it was as well, which I was quite close to doing. But I decided to take a sort of year to sort of decide and figure out my life. So I went part-time, dropped a league, and that meant I wasn't playing football every day. I was just playing football like 3 or 4 times a week. So I had to fill in the time elsewhere. Didn't really want to get a job. I worked for like 3 or 4 months in Comet when it was in a warehouse, and I just thought this is just not me for the rest of my life. So I knew I wanted to figure out something to do what I was passionate about. So I just got a qualification. I think 1 or 2 guys that I knew around the area had got a PT cert, and I kind of thought that sounds quite good. Because before that, it was kind of back then, 2010, 2011, it wasn't a big industry, not like it is now. It was still quite very niche and a luxury, maybe, PT. So I thought I'd try it anyway because I didn't have much to lose. So I sold my car, used that money to get the certs, did it in 6 weeks as I used to do, intense, in Glasgow, and I was qualified. And then, yeah, why have I stayed in the industry? The first 4 or 5 years, it was very much secondary to football because I still had aspirations to go back full time and play professionally as a football player. And then around maybe 2013, when I was maybe 2 years qualified and had a couple of years of PT under my belt, I did have the chance to go back full time. Had a couple offers from clubs and a couple leagues above, but I had a decision to make basically whether I took fitness industry seriously. Did I really see, even if I went back full time as a football player, I knew how uncertain and unsafe really the industry was. It's pretty cutthroat, and you could be back there a year, and I've worked maybe hard to build this business up, and I didn't want to lose that. So I decided to like make football my second thing maybe. And I wasn't thinking this at the time, but subconsciously this is what was happening in my head. And then fitness took over. Then I did that a year. I basically did mobile PT. So drove around people's houses, used parks, people's living rooms, back gardens, people planking over the dog and babies and, that sort of thing in the back room. So it wasn't a viable long-term business thing. And I knew then, which was we just got married. My wife was pregnant as well. So I kind of figured to myself, I need to figure things out a bit here. I need to start like winging it. So yeah, I decided to say it because I started working with Paul Mort back in the day when he did fitness market and stuff in 2014, I think. And since then, I just loved it. I always loved the gym side because I loved it when I played football. I would look forward to going to the gym when I played football after training, before training, days off. And marrying, I guess, the gym with learning about marketing and then actually having a functioning business just appealed to me. And ever since then, from being a one-man band, mobile, doing it better, to then renting out small spaces, to then the first gym, bigger version of the first gym, to now going second gym. I've just enjoyed the whole process and how it's going to build up along the way.
And it was 2014 when you first started to learn about marketing, and it was 2010, 2011 when you got qualified.
Yeah.
So actually, it's a little bit of a rare case where you've actually invested in marketing quite early on, because I would say that marketing and sales and the infrastructure are probably some of the last things people do when they get into the industry. It's the last thing people want to do, but actually you were a little bit sooner on, like went kind of headfirst into marketing. What do you think the first things you were that you learned from Paul Moore? What were those first kind of like marketing keys that you took away?
Just like, I think valuing yourself, not discounting, building an exclusive sort of personal brand or product, which is what I was sort of starting to sort of do then, which led to the first gym. Email marketing, how to write copy. Yes, I've been sending, like, back then it was daily emails, but I've been sending daily to weekly emails since 2014, and the people on my email list will know it because they probably still get them. And I'll probably send them this when it comes out, you know. So
yeah.
it's evolved over time. You know, a lot of people would have left that then because they signed up for that email list back then when it was just me and do my PT. But now we're a gym with, you know, staff, and it's a different product. But I think copywriting, valuing your own product, all those sort of things were very big in Paul's mind, and charging a premium level service because you can back it up with a premium level delivery. It was huge.
I want to go back to email marketing because I think it's super important and something very, very underrated, even still to this day. But before we do, a quick run through of the current setup now. So what's the name of the business, the model, and how many clients do you currently have?
So we are Dan Moore Elite Training, and we are based in Inverness. So we have a 3,500 to 4,000 square foot facility, depending on how much space we use. And we have been in it for 6.5 years now, and we're at now 265, I think it is, at this point, active members. There's myself, my wife, who are both directors in the business. We have both an active part of the business, and I think, as a side note, that's huge as well. Whereas a business partner or your other half, I think that's a massive part of making something work. And we've got a team of, well, we're hiring just now, so it's a bit mixed up, but by the time we open our second one, we'll have a team of 8.
Very nice.
Altogether, not including myself and my wife. So, yeah, that's where we're at. And we've been working with FMA since, I think, September 2020.
Yeah, I think that's around right. It's 2020 time.
It was coming out of the first lockdown in Scotland, I think, we started. So, yeah, coming up 3 years, I guess, yeah.
And what's the price point of the service? What does it start at and go to?
So, we recently went through a rise because we had obviously members pre-COVID who were on a certain price point. We came out of COVID, there was inflation, there was electricity costs going up, we had a different product coming through and that. So, you know, we recently had a rise and recently changed a lot of things over the last couple of years. So our average yield, last time I checked, which was about 2 weeks ago, is about £140.
Okay.
So yeah, between about £120 and our entry level offering now, after like a trial period, is £120 every 4 weeks, and our highest one's £199.
Okay, great. And if you don't mind me asking, what's the typical monthly revenue of the business?
Monthly revenue of the business, factoring in annuals, will be, last year was around 390,000.
Okay, nice.
But we do roughly around between 32 and 35,000 pound a month.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned a price increase there. Did you, you know, some will say we're in a cost of living crisis. There's a recession looming. I don't want to raise my prices. I don't want to lose my members. Did you have any of those thoughts or skepticisms before doing that, or did you just go for it? What was your thought process through that? You
know, I started thinking about when we came out of COVID because we really needed to do it then, because that's when things started happening and things started changing and the product offerings changed because we could have less people and we had but the thing, we had a decision to make where we did it straight away at COVID, but I was always, and my wife was the same, we were very much the mindset where, you know what, customers, yes, we still delivered a product, and yes, we still helped people through COVID and lockdown, and delivered online services, delivered outside offerings, and had social events and quiz nights on Zoom, that sort of stuff. And But our membership base had been very good to us and very loyal to us. So I wanted to repeat the time frame they were loyal to us. So if you factor in, I guess, March 2022, by the time we came out of second lockdown, which was about May 2021, I think it was, or June 2021, we had 12 to 14 months of uncertainty, people paying for something they didn't initially join for. Really, if people have been brutally honest, it wasn't as good as the gym. And no matter how people say online's not the same as what we offered in the gym. And that's fact, because we're better at the gym. So we wanted to replicate that time period in terms of like when we then actually did our price rise. So yeah, we started thinking about it then sort of mid part of last year, and we actioned it, I think it was September last year. And it went fine, we did it properly. We didn't want to overly communicate it because I think a lot of members would understood, and it was never the relative raise, which I guess everyone else was going on like 30, 40%, which a lot of things were, it was probably between 5 and 10% on average. But I guess with electricity and whatnot, it was unavoidable, and most people understood, which was good.
Yeah. Did you have many people that decided they didn't want to continue, or the majority happy to pay?
Nobody left. Yeah, nobody left off the back of it. But I think we were very fair in what we did as well. Did
you manage to hold on to a good portion throughout lockdown?
Yeah, we never lost more than, I think we were always running at about 70% of our business. So I don't think we ever lost more than 30%. And obviously we had grants and furlough, which helped, but it was difficult. We did spend a lot of money on things we now don't have or use as assets. We propped up a marquee outside the gym for 6 months, but it's cost a lot of money. And it hampered our profit and whatnot, but it was just something we needed to do to deliver an element of the offering we actually promised the clients.
I think also knowing that such a large portion of your clientele stuck with you for that period of time, that to do a modest price increase, that's nothing in comparison to what they did for you then. So to be able to take that reassurance that they're most likely going to be able to stick with you anyway, then that there's hopefully some reassurance there. What would you say to anyone that, I've had conversations with so many people that are thinking of raising their prices to like an extra £2-3 a month, or just something really, really small, but they're really, really worried about it. What would you say to those people to potentially give them some advice and maybe encourage them?
Just like, do you want to have a business? It's really, it's at the end of the day, you'll end up resenting your business because you don't get anything out of it, because you can't feed your family or you can't live the life you want to live, and that's what you go into business for. So it totally goes against the grain of, I guess, why you started a business. So don't get too attached or married to the actual price, because people probably value you and your service more than you actually think. And you've got to, the biggest mistake I probably made was not just doing it small and incrementally over years since we opened the business, which we've now, we'll do like a 3% every sort of annually, which is something we probably should have done before COVID, which would have made the gap not so big. And that's probably a mistake I learned initially from starting. So, you live and learn.
So moving forward, you'd actually just do a small price increase regularly rather than one larger one every so often.
I don't ever want to do that again. Now we'll I say fit in line with inflation, but I don't know if anybody knows what that number is. But I think if we do it, what we feel is manageable and what we feel we can run the business for. Obviously, a lot of our costs have gone up more than we've put the price up. So we're probably still taking a small hit on when you look at our actual expenses. But it's I guess a level of fairness and, like I said, reciprocating that, because we wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for clients, and that's a fact.
And in terms of the current client base, you're near capacity. Obviously, there's always those quiet periods that could be busier, but very hard to fill. You're quite near capacity right now, aren't you?
Yeah, I'd say, like I said before we started live, we're at 265 just now. I've always thought, if you look at an operational capacity calculator, when you do it like a gym owner would do it, it would come out about 285 to 295. But that's an ideal. It's based on ideals. That's based on everyone fitting into times that you could fit them into.
Yeah,
which never happens.
Yeah, there's always going to be that little bit of.
And you don't want huge wait lists. We didn't get into this to have a lot of people saying they can't attend class or attend sessions or, So that's not what we've got in it for us. We want to make sure the business runs and functions operationally sound, and that's why we feel the number we're at now is actually probably about right.
Nice. And coming out of lockdown in 2020, or that first lockdown, how many clients, and when you kind of met us as well, how many clients did you have at that point? And before that, what did you do marketing-wise to get those clients through the door? Obviously, you had a little bit of experience from marketing you invested in the past. So what was it you were doing then?
Yeah, so we went through, I guess, a bunch of maybe agencies or people who were doing it on the side, and we would just do it for months. Maybe we needed it. which probably wasn't the right mindset. You know, we'd think, okay, we don't need ads this month, so we won't pay for marketing this month. Then you wouldn't market, then you need to do it the month after because you didn't do the month before. So we didn't have a proper like good outlook in it, I'd say. So we just did it as and when, and we maybe boost, like back when we first opened in 2016. I mean, we would boost posts, and you would get £1 or less leads, and you'd fill a gym with like under £100. It just, you know, the game's changed, I guess.
Yeah.
So with the game changing, the game being more technical, more advanced, and I don't want to spend a lot of my time checking rules, checking regulations on Facebook, and getting ads disproving an ad account actually disabled because we aren't doing it right. So the reason why I sought out a more professional level service like yourselves was, you spend 100% of your time doing this, I'll spend 100% of the time doing what I'm good at and passionate about, and they both should work pretty well.
It sounds like before it was quite a, it wasn't, you didn't have
scattergun.
Yeah, kind of shooting from the hip. There wasn't too much of a long-term plan at play. It was like, what do we need now? And then we'll kind of focus on tomorrow when that day comes in terms of marketing and clients we need, which I think is what most people do, right?
I mean, it worked. You know, to be honest with you, I think going into lockdown 1, we had 220 clients. Now, lockdown 1 was March 2020. We moved in properly January 2019. So we went from 130 clients to 220 clients in just over a year. So we're doing something right.
Yeah.
Whether that's a combination of the way we're marketing, the emails, maybe the buzz of maybe having a new location, our service delivery, all that sort of things. I guess a lot of this played a part, but I think the market and the industry has changed since then, a big way. It's not so, you've got to be, if you weren't good in certain areas, you'll soon be found out. And I don't think you were found out before then.
Yeah, and going in, you had 220, and then coming out, if it was 70%, were you about 190, 180?
Yeah, probably between 170 and 190 active, and then always having a sort of batch of like maybe trialists that are ready to start. And especially when we did momentum and turned the ads on initially. It went really well, and we've never looked back from there. I
want to go back to email marketing, because you have a bit of experience in this, and again, I think it's massively underrated. How many people do you have on your list for when you started?
I think locally we have around 4,500 to 5,000 people.
Yeah, so 4,500 people that have registered some sort of interest. And as you know, there'll be a portion of people that buy straight away, and some people that don't buy for a year or maybe even longer in your case. Have you got any examples of someone that came onto the list years and years ago and then eventually signed up after many emails?
I can't think of one particular, but I do know you get clients that will sign off an ad and they'll do it on a whim, a weekend. They see an ad that pops up, it sounds like a good idea, it matches what they need at the time, and they'll sign up on Monday, and that works. But as well, I think there's a lot to be said for people that taking that sort of longer term outlook on it, where they will read emails 3 times a week for a year or 2 years because they just have a higher trust threshold. They need more, they need to see more, they need to have, and I guess not everyone's always ready. Not everyone always wants to do it, but they're interested in losing weight. Everyone wants to be fit. Everyone wants to be healthy. If we live in ideals, everyone would be fit and healthy. But people have got different obstacles, different parts of life they're going through, and it sometimes takes an event to happen in someone's life where they think, "Yeah, the doctor told me this. I need to do that." I looked at myself in the mirror and I wasn't happy. I was playing with my kids and I was out of breath. Whereas when I did it last year, I was fine. You know, so it takes the penny to drop for some people. When they get a fright, it's almost like the old saying, you know, change doesn't happen until the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. And I think that's really being there when that happens for that person, because if they've been reading your stuff for 3 times a week for 3 years, who they go to? The price won't matter. The class times won't matter. The actual service delivery and where it's hit, where it's strengthening won't matter. They just want to work for you because they know you're the best person for that, and they align their values with your values, sort of thing.
And the way that you email your list, now I know the style you do this, but just to explain for the listeners, is people assume that because you're a business, you email your list or your customers like a business, but actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that you have been communicating to your list is as a person. So it's from you, and there's actually typically not any branding or logos. It's a personal email from you to the reader. And you know, you mentioned there's a trust trust thing. And if someone's consistently opened your emails from you every time, that's a connection again. And it goes back to what you said, right? That person that isn't quite ready, but they build this virtual relationship with you because you're literally writing your thoughts and feelings and viewpoints on certain elements to that person, and that person may connect with those words, and words are very powerful. And for anyone listening that it's so funny, actually. I've done quite a number of public speaking engagements recently, and I always ask the same question. I say, put your hand up if you've emailed your list at least once a week. Minimal hands always go up. And then I ask who has a list, and then you get twice as many hands go up. And so people have this massive database of people that have inquired in the past, but they're not utilizing it. And you may as well not have the list if you're not going to actually go ahead and email them. And some people think, oh, I don't want to email too much. I don't want to seem like I'm being spammy. But at the end of the day, if they want to opt out, they can do, right? And it's just more opportunity for you to connect with that individual. It's a real long-term game of email as well. I think it's massively underrated. I think that again, 4,500 people in your local area, like
1% of those people sign up is probably fills your gym.
That's massive. So if you were to look at like pipeline opportunity, so how much is, if you're listening to this, how much is your service a month, times that by the amount of your email list, and that's technically the opportunity that you have to extract from that. Now, obviously, you're never going to close 100%, but 10%, still a bit high, 5%, 1%, that's actually doable, very, very doable. And when you actually times how much you charge by, that number, that's a lot. There's a lot of potential inside that list, but it's just not there straight away. It's not that low hanging fruit, right? It's something that needs a little bit.
It's hard.
It
takes more time, and but usually the things that take more time, people aren't doing. So there's value in that initially itself, just by doing it.
That's it. And don't get me wrong, ads work, right? You can run ads, get leads, and make sales. But if you just do that for a long-term strategy, it's going to stop what's serving you as well as it should do. I always speak about this thing like the ecosystem. You should be marketing on different channels to different types of people to service their needs. And I think that's something that you're doing quite well with. One, you're running ads, but I see the testimonials, I see the email marketing as well. So you're kind of hitting people from all different angles, getting them ready.
Well, you've got the sort of corporate avenue of like actually utilising what people actually do who come to your gym, which we spoke about obviously at Tottenham. There's loads of ways to do it, but I guess it comes down to having a good service. You've got to have a good service. You've got to putting those people into something that's actually very good, because it doesn't matter what you do. Like the old fill in the water, the bucket of water analogy, it'll just drain. It's no good having all this great marketing in place if the service is terrible. If they're just going to go out the back door as fast as they're coming in the front, then there's no point. What is your attrition rate, actually, if you don't mind me asking? It's that, like, we on average will lose, and I put a personal post up last week about like personal losses in 2022, I think it was, and I think I said something like we lost 65 or 60 members this year, and people were shocked. Members couldn't believe it. Like, Dan, I can't believe it, because I think members just think people never leave, but that's another thing. Like, I guess gym owners and PTs get married to is like everyone will sometimes people leave, and sometimes you can't help it, and sometimes you can overanalyze it, but we're always definitely within 3%. I think we on average probably lose one a week. If you look at end of calendar month, it might be a good month might be 4.
Our percentage is still very low from where it should be, right?
Yeah, a good, and that's not even cancellations. That could be a freeze. We count freezes within that. Like, somebody says, I'm stopping for 4 months, but I would like to come back in 4 or 5 months. That is a lost member to us. So I'm not counting that as a member. So between freezes and cancellations, we'll average probably one a week. So over a year, that's also, you get to be at least 48. So in some months it might be 8, 10. You do have some months that, you think the world's crashing down, you lose 8 members, and you kind of, again, you can overanalyze things, but sometimes you can only do what you can do sometimes, and sometimes people just have to leave.
And we've kind of covered a bit of marketing. To move on to sales a little bit. So you sell successfully. You've got some of your team now sell. Is it just your team selling now, or is it?
Yeah, I don't do it anymore. I used to do it all, and then Lisa, who came in sort of like front of house and doing onboarding, customer experience, sales, and inputting all the ads via FMA. Lisa's actually...
Oh, she does all of that.
She does all of it now, yeah. So it's good in a sense that I think owners can sometimes be... I can still pick up the phone and phone somebody. Is it something I'm always wanting to be doing? Probably not. But Lisa's actually very good at it in the sense that she's less maybe emotionally attached to the business as well. I think a lot of gym owners can get a bit, if somebody says no to them, they can overanalyze it a little bit and think, oh, it's taking it personally. I probably did that in the early stages. I definitely don't do it now because it's bigger picture, and you just know sometimes people just can't do it, and it's people either leave the gym or people can't sign up to your program. It's like it's life, So but we've got some of our guys doing sales boot camp. We want all of our team to be able to sell, like I was saying before the podcast. I think sales is important, not in the sense of a transactional sale, but I think if you can sell someone the idea. So if one of our trainers who can't communicate something to a member, if she's trying to sell a member on the idea of doing a heavier weight because she knows that heavier weight is progressive overload and it's better for that client, then it's better that member of staff knows sales so they can sell the idea on that using that weight. It's not always about money. I think money's important, and people think staff and think gym owners need to understand the concept that money is not bad and money is good and sales is good and selling is serving, yada yada. But I think it's good for staff to know as well.
Well, a sale is a bottom line, a transaction of value, right? So in most cases that does have money, but there's also so many other scenarios in life where sales are made, but it's just not money, right? It's a situation.
What, you're watching Netflix tonight?
Yeah, it's a situation where both parties win essentially because one gets something from the other and both walk away happy. That's how it should be in every single situation. So when you kind of look at life like that, like getting someone to buy into an idea so they can now believe in that process, like that's a sale. Yeah. But people don't think about it on that sort of level. How did you find it? Was it Lisa? You said. Yeah. How did you find Lisa?
Oh, Lisa was a member.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's an avenue we looked at.
How long was she a member for before you signed her up to the team?
I think she was with us and her husband were with us for a year, and then COVID happened, and then she became a member of staff and we came out of lockdown too, I think.
I'm a big advocate for getting a member to become a salesperson. If you're at that point when you're ready to pass on sales, I think there is a point where there was a certain point where you're the best person to sell it, but also is there a point where you can delegate it, and only when that level is ready then to go to. But when looking for someone, I think a member's brilliant, especially one that's been with you for at least like a year, 18 months. And the reason why is that they have conviction that your service works. So when they speak to someone over the phone, they're speaking through their experiences. Like they believe in the product because they've lived through the product for the last year, 18 months. And the higher levels of conviction you have, the belief in what you do, the more sales you will make. If you do not believe in what you do or do not believe in the service, you will struggle to make sales.
Rubs off on people, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where people struggle, right? Some people may have a service that isn't to a good standard. And if you do not believe in it, it's just not going to work there. So you had her for a year and then she came on board. And was that her first job role, the sales side, or?
Yeah, with us, yeah. Not just sales. I mean, Lisa's job's quite flexible in the sense of like, there's like all the stuff that basically I don't like to do and the PTs aren't very good at as well. It's because I guess pre Lisa, we'd all do a bit. Some would do a bit of sales, some would do a bit of like, I would try and do a bit of the accounts and reconciliations and, we've been rotas and, a lot of things, obviously my wife Amy, she does a lot of that now as well in terms of like, the day-to-day. So my wife Amy, she works hand in hand with Lisa now in the day-to-day sort of running aspect and making sure things get done, because it's good looking ahead, it's good making sales, it's good planning for the future of the business, but things need to get done on a day-to-day basis, and it's important you have that.
Yeah. Something I want to move on to is something that you're very big on, which is mindset. I know you released a book recently. I think it's called Start on Monday or Start on Monday. Oh, you got a copy here. Amazing. And amazing. Let's check it out. Pop it on for the camera there. Order on Amazon right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
very good for clients.
Yeah. Oh, so do you give this to clients when they sign up as well?
Yeah. So it's a good. What I wanted to do was have a good lead magnet. It was different. I think having a book, I always look at people that had books as on a pedestal. And I think, again, it's just doing something that maybe from a marketing point of view that other people maybe aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
And proving to myself that I could do it. And I always read a lot, so I thought I might as well, like, rather than consuming so much content, I think it's good to create your own content in line with consuming content.
And how important for you is mindset when running a business? There's ups and downs. All sorts of things happen when running a business that you don't want to happen. Why is it you kind of got into, like, heavily invested in mindset?
Or how long ago did you? I think working with Paul, helped initially because he was like, he's probably a lot of people's gateway drug just now into the mindset world. You know, a lot of people just try and copy what he does. That's being totally honest. But, you know, it's a big industry now. And why did I get in the mindset? Because I think having a stronger mindset proved to me that I think when I played football, I had a weak mindset. And I don't want to say weak and similar. That's maybe a wrong word, and I don't want people to think people are weak.
But it wasn't, maybe not weak, but not
fragile.
In the right place,
Fragile and problems, When I play football, if somebody said something to me, if an older player said something to me, a manager said something to me, I'd take it really personally. I'd overthink it. I wouldn't sleep, get really anxious. I wasn't as confident then.
So you're quite reactive to.
Quite reactive, and I think a mindset properly held me back with football. I think, like, with a stronger mindset, I'd have got further. Then I wouldn't have the gym as well. So you can look at it two ways, you know. So I think proving to myself, having that stronger mindset, especially through COVID, myself and my wife, you know, we dealt with things really well. We, in terms of the kids as well, self-care and is really important to us, you know. So making sure we're, you know, I guess fitting our own oxygen masks first for the business is hugely important, because if your mindset's not on point, then, you know, things will trip you up down the road. You can't deal with problems, and business is problems, you know. And
I think with, because I want to talk about the team, but with leadership, it kind of starts with leading yourself first, right? So like, are you looking after yourself? Are you placing yourself in the best position for those around you? And if you're not, then that is going to affect those around you, whether it is the team, whether it is family. What attributes do you think you have now that you didn't have before that have enabled you to be successful within your gym?
I think communication. I think doing more things like this. I think the book. I think the confidence of what's happened in the business and doing public speaking. Like I said, going back to when I played football, we used to do media training, and we'd watch stuff back, like being asked questions, and I was just like a nervous wreck, red, sweating, it's horrendous. And I'd look at players that were really confident, and they would answer questions like, how do they do that? And I never thought I'd be like that. So me back then to me now, I never thought I'd had my own business, let alone had staff and all these clients. But I think I always, I did like videos like we do for FMA now, back in 2014, 15, 16, when it wasn't such a big thing. When probably Paul started doing it and he told us to do it, and it's like, and it worked because people got to know you as a person, and it built my confidence up in front of the camera. So I think communication was a big one. Having the confidence and conviction in what you're saying, because that's backed up from wisdom, really, because I know how far I've come myself, so that's gave me confidence. And I just think, dealing with problems, like when things happened 4 or 5 years ago that actually I thought were huge, they wouldn't be so huge now. And I think the same's probably true now to hopefully my next 5 years. I might look back on things now, and more recently it's happened, and thought, I made a big deal of that, but that's just life, that's just business, that's just how you deal with things.
A few things that you said that I picked up on is it sounded like before you were a lot more reactive to situations back in your football days, but you even mentioned that now that when you lose a client, you know that it's just life, whereas before I imagine there was a time where...
I still, that's probably the one thing that it really still, I don't think I'll ever get over, because I think when you take so much care in your business, and your business is personal, it's built on trust, it's built on relationships, it's built on, you put so much equity into and work into that relationship and developing this person. And when you're known as a brand like we are locally, as like being the gym for people who don't like gyms, and the big community aspect, the big personal aspect, the way it makes people feel, that caring side. I think when people leave, it's always get you hit your card, because you're that type of person that built that business.
Yeah.
So it's a byproduct of your business. So I think if you didn't care, it'd be...
That's a good point. So like the fact that you have some feeling towards it actually just shows that you care about what you do. Do you think you deal with it better than you used to?
I deal with it better. There's no doubt I deal with it better. Partly probably because Lisa gets a lot of the initial contact, and because it goes through a gym phone now, it doesn't come to my PMs on Facebook, or I don't get the emails to say I'm leaving. So I think that helps, because I would maybe get that when I woke up in the morning some days, and that would just kill your day.
Yeah.
Or you see it before you go to sleep at night, and you think, oh God.
I think especially when you're starting out and you have that first set of clients and you have a more personal connection with them, and they've got your number, they've got you on Facebook, and they send you that message. You're trying to relax, and you get a message through, and you know you shouldn't open it, and you do, and it's just something that kind of potentially ruins the evening.
It's almost just like the part of the industry, which every industry's got its downsides. Every industry's got the things you just can't avoid, even if you're good at it or bad at it. And I think that's just maybe one of them that I would never want a member to leave the gym, and I still don't. And but yeah, how I deal with it probably is better. Partly because Lisa Lisa gets the initial contact now. I think that's mainly it.
Yeah.
Plus, I think knowing you have a trusted, I guess, the marketing side of things, we have more faith and confidence in market now that we know we can. Okay, we couldn't take clients on this month, but if we lose 3 or 4 clients this month, we know we can just turn ads on and it comes.
Yeah, whereas before it was, we've lost a client, where are we going to find that new person? Whereas now it's more that emotional side of, oh, I don't want that person to leave. But the other side of it, in terms of getting the client on board, isn't too much of an issue, because you know they come in pretty regularly when you actually need them to come through.
We can deal with more as a business around like some sort of like personal, like just winging it really. Yeah, so.
The second thing I took from when you were speaking about kind of what your mindset was before and what it is now is that confidence factor. When you were kind of doing media and you were kind of red in the face, or the first thought of doing videos wasn't a comfortable one, but you actually ended up pushing through and doing it. I personally think that confidence isn't a thing that some people believe you either have it or you don't. I personally think it's just a process of repetition. If you do something enough times, you become confident at it. People are very confident at very basic skills, but it's the ones that make them feel uncomfortable, that they feel they're not confident at, and one of them could be picking up the phone, making a sales call, right? People are scared to do that, or getting in front of camera to make ads, to make content. People are scared to do that. And, you know, the first time I picked up the phone to someone, the first time I got in front of the camera or did it, I had quite a lot of negative emotions inside of me. But you kind of have to put that aside and push through. And the more you do it, the less that feeling is there.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing it for is enough, and it means enough to you, just like that person that you phone, going back to the analogy of the pain of saying the same, like you learn a video is the pain of you saying the same, you know, because you know for your career, that skill of being good in video you need for you and the future of your career. So you want to go through that initially in that uncomfortable pain in the short term to get more comfortable in the long term. And I think that's just personal training. When you speak to a client, you saying you can't go on video because you don't feel comfortable with it as well. None of the clients that come to you feel comfortable coming to you. You know, that's, you know, they want to get more comfortable in their own clothes or in their own skin longer term. That's where they're coming to you. So it goes against, it's quite hypocritical or incongruent by you saying I'm not doing that because I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, the process of getting results from a fitness perspective is quite painful. You literally have to tear muscles to build them up.
Especially if you enjoy it.
You have to be hungry potentially to lose weight for some people. You know, there's a lot of negative feelings initially that come for great reward on the end. And I think just that process of doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, and that's what holds most people back, right? People don't like to put themselves out there. I know some people that don't like to put offers out on their Instagram page, for instance, because they don't want to seem like that person, or they have fears, or they don't want to pick up the phone, or they don't want to ask for the sale, or they don't want to do this.
It just doesn't mean enough. The person at the time, you know, and it comes to the point if you were going to lose your business tomorrow, but you had to sell 10 people, you would find 10 people. So if you had that mindset going every day, be that sales, be that marketing, be that service delivery, and a good analogy I sort of think of, and I speak to the team about it, is, and it's going against me relying on marketing, is if you knew you could not run an ad again for the rest of your life, how would you treat your current clients today?
Yeah.
And that's maybe the bad side of marketing and being too reliant, is that you will forget then about what actually pays your bills. And going back to confidence, it's just like, I guess, with confidence in the phone or confidence video, when you were started as a PT, you were not confident in that first session, but at session 1000, you're very confident.
Yeah.
So it's just that, like you said, it's just that backing up repetition.
I was in Miami recently for like an educational event, and I got to see this tennis coach who had trained at the highest level tennis players, like at Olympic podium, and I got to listen to him speak about his coaching process and the mindset of the athletes he's worked with. And some of the people were top level athletes. And what he said to me that I found really, really reassuring, I really liked it, was that people, the best players in the world, they all have that same negative feeling inside of them that everyone else does. The difference between them is they just put it aside and continue the job at hand. So it's not that those negative feelings aren't there. Like when people, when it's the World Cup final for a football match, that feeling is still there for everyone. They just put it aside. Like it's not there, but that is the difference between like a high performer and someone who doesn't take action. They just push past that negative feeling because it's just a feeling, right?
Yeah, I did a video on that last year. It's like the athlete versus the amateur mindset. If an athlete, goes into the same situation the same as an amateur, but the athlete just deals with things better, and the amateur just like things that happen to them are the results. whereas the athlete will just get the job done regardless of thoughts, feelings, how uncomfortable things are.
Regardless of the external circumstances, and go for it. What mindset and attributes do you think someone needs to have a successful gym?
I think you need to think longer term. I think a lot of people are, and I've been in this situation. I was even in the last year to an extent when I was doing a bit of online stuff as well as the gym. That it's very hard, I think, to do more than one thing very well. And I think try to do the online gyms, it's hard because there's people spending 100% of their time online that have bigger following than you, that are better than you online. You're trying to like spend 50% of your time try to get into that market. So I think you need to have like a solid mindset in terms of like, you're not doing the gym for ego. It's not cool to say you have a gym if it's not profitable. It might externally look very cool on Instagram when you've got your own gym and you can work out in it. But if it's not making money and it's not serving your life and you're trying to do 10 things at once and you can't service your customers and people are leaving you and you're getting stressed at home, but people aren't seeing that because you're hiding it because of like followers and Instagram, whatever. I think you've got to know why you're doing it. It's got to be for the greater good, and you've got to know what's important to you. You've got to have a long-term mindset. You've got to be prepared to build a team and employ people, and people want to have people leave you, be that both staff and clients, and deal with that. And I think you've got to be obsessed. I think the word would be obsessed. I think to be good at anything, when I got to the point, I stopped getting, when I changed my mind in football to the personal training, I became less obsessed with football, and the byproduct of that was I was less good at football. My performance every Saturday weren't as good because Monday to Friday, before, when football was everything to me, I'd be watching videos for the week on like the right backs I was playing against the weekend, like which way were they defending people when I was playing left wing, just to get little tips at the weekend when I ran at them, and for that years after when I stopped doing that, I just didn't do it. So I didn't have that same level of preparation going into it. And I think I got to being a football player because, and I wasn't the best football player in the world by any means, and I would never have played at a high level. I could have maybe played higher, but I got to the level I could play at because I was obsessed. And the reason I fell out of football because I was less obsessed, because I thought more about like, when we started playing, it was like you're more interested in nights out and where you're going at the weekend rather than the game you got on Saturday. And that's dangerous because you're not obsessed with football. What got you to this point, you're stopping thinking that way. And I think with gym ownership, I think you've got to be so obsessed about like customer level of the small nuances, like how a customer feels in their first session and walk in the door. How do they feel at the end of week 1? How do they feel at the end of week 4? Not only do the people in your first 4 weeks, but how do your members that have been for 3-4 years, how are they transitioning along the cycle, along with these new people you've got coming in? Obsessed with your staff, obsessed with the product delivery, obsessed about sales, marketing, every single part of the business you've got to be so obsessed about. And obsessed can be bad and can have negative connotations, but I think realistically nobody got good at anything without being obsessed.
Yeah. And at the start you said, like you moved away from one thing and it made the other thing not as effective or maybe not as good. And I think you were talking about you had the gym and then also this online side of thing. But
for the book.
Yeah, the online sort of presence, but that was taken away from the gym. And I think a lot of people, going online is it seems like a bit of a buzz phase for many people. But what I see is people will have a gym and it's not actually where it could be. There's much more work that could go into it so it could make more profit more and be a more impactful business. But then that sort of shiny object syndrome of online coaching is really appealing. And it seems like it's easier, I think people think. What are your thoughts on that side?
I think it's easier, but it's harder because you're competing with everyone. Whereas if you're good in your postcode, you only compete with so many people.
Yeah.
But
like your audience is there, right?
But in your postcode's hard because you've got competition in a different way. But competition can be good, competition can be bad. So it really is your mindset behind it, and just backing up your actions with what you actually want, I think, and not doing things to maybe appease our people or to impress people you don't like. I think, and I think people do online and the gym excellent as well. It can be done. Like you look at a brand like Marchon who do both very well.
Yeah,
but you can't. Not everyone can be a Marchon.
Yeah, that online side is massive. I think it makes more than the gym. I could be wrong, but it does very well.
Massive, yeah. So you look at something like that, and you can then think, but I'll spend one. And I made this mistake before with the gym. It's I'll spend 1 day a week or 2 days a week on online. And I'll spend 3 days a week in the gym, and it's so hard because you end up doing both, and it's blended, and it's difficult to. It's like chasing 2 rabbits at once and not catching any, I think, a wee bit.
I think what those guys had before the online, though, was an excellent gym service. And they were doing things like pretty well, right? And of course, there's always room for innovation. But I think there's a lot of people that aren't doing well in one thing and they move off to the other while that thing could be better. So I agree. I think there's definitely scope for people to do both as a scaling opportunity, but it's like build this first and make it the best it possibly can be and maximize that, and then do something on top. Because like you said, like with the football or when you were focused on the book, can it take away from the main thing? And like when you just have that focus on that one thing, that's when things start to become really, really great.
Yeah, that's why I stopped playing football. I stopped playing at 28, 29, and it's probably 2 years too late, to be honest with you, because I was thinking about it for a couple of years because you were quite attached to it. But yeah, you've got to say no and stop things to make some things grow a bit more, and that's what happened to the gym. I could not keep playing football and have the family life I wanted and run the gyms the way I wanted. So yeah, something's got to make some big calls, and it can work, but maybe it's got to be, if you don't have a huge following, maybe you've got to be super niche with it as well. I just think people get into it for wrong reasons because it looks scalable. The margins are 100%. That all sounds great, but yeah, there's definitely downsides.
Yeah. Well, I think with everything there's pros and cons,
yeah,
and there's a lot of people doing it. There's a lot of people doing it well.
A brilliant online trainer.
Yeah,
and just be a brilliant online trainer, and that's totally different to what I'm talking about today and what I'm good at. So I'm probably not the best person to talk about that as well. So.
Yeah. Something I want to go back to marketing and speak about, because I know that you have done this side very well, is the corporate marketing. Now, you spoke at our mastermind in Tottenham, and you've had some great success in actually approaching corporations and getting those people signed up. And this has been an aspect that some people have really struggled to do in the past. Like, how do you kind of penetrate those businesses? And you kind of did it from the inside, well, inside your gym, essentially. So it'd be kind of cool to run through that process and what you actually did to get those deals, because a lot of people approach a business cold, and it's definitely doable, and we've seen people do it for sure, but it's harder, right, when you went in kind of from the inside a little bit. So it'd be cool to touch on that.
I think, again, it goes back to if you do approach these people cold, and what they think about you, I think, is what I'd think is first. Do you have the band and the service delivery and the product to back it up? Do you have the reviews, testimonies? And I think that gives you an air of confidence. If I just started as a PT tomorrow or a gym owner in a new place tomorrow and walked into a place and says, like, yes, you can maybe make them where you're opening, but you maybe don't have that maybe capital, maybe equity, that sort of trust, that they don't have that positive word of mouth that they've heard about. Whereas the people that started initially with us and got their staff on board were clients, and they had a very good relationship with me, especially. So I think it goes back to like just being one, obviously, allowing seeds to grow almost, and just like you've got to make people an offer at some point as well. If you have intimate conversations and you regularly meet with clients and whatnot, and you speak to them and you put, because sometimes these clients don't know that this is possible as well, and that's what we found is that you say to a member it's got a client, and the other thing is going for business is too big, because if a business is too big or has multi locations and different sites, they could say to you, which has happened to us, it'll be great, I'd love it to happen with staff in Inverness, but the guys over here and the guys here wouldn't get that, so it's not really fair. So it's the right size of business as well. It's very easy to think, I'll go to like Amazon beside us and try and get a bit, I don't think Jeff Bezos gets a sign off on that.
Yeah.
But there's obviously got to be corporate budgets in place, and a lot of big companies do have corporate budgets. But yeah, I'd look at the sense of like businesses maybe like construction or estate agents or.
And did you list out the clients you wanted to go for, or was it kind of organic?
I'm totally unplanned. And I wish that there was and after FMA, a lot of people spoke to me and asked me about it, and I didn't actually really know. Although I spoke about my experience of doing it, and the questions after, like, well, what do I do when I go to them? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who these clients are. I don't know what you're like. I don't know what your strengths are. I don't know how they'll react to you saying something like that. I don't know how good your product is. So it's different, and I don't know the business you actually get pitched to. So it's hard. There's so many variables that it happened to us basically by chance, and the clients that came to us, a couple maybe asked, and a couple I put a suggestion to, and it just worked. Yeah. And
so with those, like, there's so many variables that you highlighted. Was each offer that you made to each individual corporation like different and bespoke to who they were, or? And
it's never it's never like, I think people immediately think corporate as well. A lot of gym owners think, oh God, I'm going to be making 50% less but small group independent gyms can't just then shave 40% off their, the people that come in pay what the clients, because it wouldn't sit well with me if people because they worked in a certain place, paid less than people that came to me for 3 years because they didn't work for this place. So we always made a stand of making sure it was on point with our other memberships, and the business basically just buys blocks of like maybe 5 or 6 memberships for this business, and these 5 or 6 people will use it. That's the sort of thing, that's the arrangement we've got, and the business gets invoiced every month and they pay for the memberships. That's really how it works.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes you've made in running your business, and what are the lessons you've learned from those mistakes?
Mistakes, I think, again, probably letting people leave the business, be that especially members and staff, especially probably as well. Well, definitely both, because if staff leave, it impacts members because members get close to staff. But I think when people leave, not getting too emotionally attached to it, and not letting it ruin your home life, and not ruin your home. I never didn't ruin my home life, but it would take up your thoughts in a night, maybe with your kids, and it shouldn't. So again, that involvement in your business is a strength because it got you to a place where you could have this business, but it can be your biggest weakness as well if it pulls you the wrong way when you should be spending your time elsewhere. But I think that's maybe the nature of having a business, but you never really switch off, you never stop. Other mistakes would be, just probably not knowing my numbers and going into the first gym when we first opened, totally wet behind the ears. We just didn't have a clue.
So you're opening a second gym, or you're in the process of doing that now. What are you going to do differently with all the sort of lessons going into the second one? Yeah,
well, it's just like, it probably takes away 3 years worth of mistakes. Because realistically, we've done things really well over the last 2 years, especially coming out of COVID. I think our service delivery, our product, our price points, our team since COVID really helped us come out with a better business, because it gave us that year to sort of take a step back, take 2 forward, I think. So yeah, I think it's got to shave 3 years off of mistakes, things we've learned. We just won't do the same things again, in terms of like kit, layout, not wasting money on certain things that we would waste money on before, being more on top of numbers, and properly onboarding staff members, clients the right way. Just loads of things that I think just doing everything better. I don't think there's one particular thing. I think gyms and businesses are made up of a lot of like 1%, 2% things and doing them all very well. I don't think there's one sort of thing you knock it out of the park and that's it. It's a case of doing a lot of things well.
And you mentioned staff a couple of times there when kind of listing things off that are going really well, service delivery, the team. A couple of people from past episodes have mentioned that the staff and the team has been maybe one of their biggest challenges, but it's now in a good place. Did you find that at the beginning? Did that fall into one of the mistakes you may have made with staff, or have things gone pretty well, or what's your experience?
We've definitely, we've had our challenges. I think any business said they haven't had their challenges would be lying, but you just you learn. Things happen and you think it's the worst thing in the world at the time, but I look back at all those things now and think, that's maybe a better gym owner. It's maybe more bulletproof in the sense that if that happens again, that won't happen that way, because I've been more proactive and reactive with how I've either dealt with the staff members in terms of like onboarding. We're putting a lot more time into the staff in terms of like more scheduled weekly meetings and individual one-to-one times, and going over their one-to-one individual goals along with the business's goals, because the staff's goals have got to fit in line with the business's goals and vice versa, and what they're doing within the business on Monday to Friday or Monday to Sunday that fits in line with both. So I think, it's when you're new to business and you haven't had staff before, you're going to make mistakes. And be that hiring, be that how you deal with the staff, how they leave, it could be a manner of things.
And you've got 8 members of the team, not including yourself and your wife. And what
what we will have?
I will have with the new place.
Yeah, let me just think. Lisa, Dial, 7. Yeah, will it be 9 including me and my wife? Actually, by the time we open 2, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And with that team, from a leadership perspective, how have you developed and grown as a leader, like from the start point to now? Like, what do you think have been the key changes inside of you that's made you the leader you are today?
I think I tried to micromanage every single process too much. I think I knew the business grew because of the way I initially coached people, because it was just me initially at the start, and Amy helped me, and then we got a first member of staff and the second member of staff. So I think, you get validated on those things to a point, and then it gets to the point with staff is like you then need to train the staff and work with the staff to make sure they can do that with the members. And me and my wife and 2 kids and father-in-law just spent almost 3 weeks with in business, and we came back and the staff were all, the members were all buzzing, the staff were all very happy. They loved it. They actually really enjoyed us being away for 3 weeks, I think, because it gave them the room to grow. It gave them the chance to maybe prove themselves that they can do it without me and Amy there, and almost like being thrown at the deep end a little bit. And it gave us the chance to know that the business can function and grow without us as well, because we came back and the numbers were better.
And are you much more at ease now with everyone doing their tasks? I know before you said micromanaging was a bit of an issue. Are you more comfortable?
I just think I spent too much time obsessing about the customer journey, and I'm still obsessed with the customer journey, by the way. But I now realise the importance of the staff journey as much. Whereas I just probably initially when I first had staff for the first couple of years was like, the staff, you train the staff to a point, then they'll just train the members this way. But if the staff are never developing the way you develop, then there's a gap between myself and the staff. Whereas now I see the staff's development and CPD and everything like that over the last few years is probably more important than my own, because there's a limit to the business if I grow to a point. But there's a limitless approach to the business, I guess, if the staff can all get better.
Sounds like from the get-go, the customer was always the most important person, and now the staff onboarding process and that service.
The staff was important.
Of course it's important, but it's what the customer was first, and now it sounds like it's more like on the same level in terms of that onboarding process and looking after those.
Yeah, because the customers want the staff to stay. The customers want the staff to be treated well. The customers want the staff to enjoy their job as well, because they like the staff. That personal relationship builds and compounds over time. So the customer doesn't want me to not think about the staff, so it's just realising the importance of that. I think it's not that I shunned that to the side and didn't think of staff, but I was probably just too attached to the customer journey and people, who's staying, who's going, how are they finding this session, how are they finding that session, looking at the small things that also are very important and are still very important, but just knowing there's more small things that are very important.
What's next for you now? I know you've got the second location, but kind of in more detail, what's next for yourself and the business?
So, yeah, we want to grow the business. We want to keep Inverness going the way it's going. And the sort of capacity it's at now, 265, we can maybe get 270, 275 with our current staff base, and without it bursting at the seams in terms of waiting lists. So maintaining that standard in Inverness, I think the big challenge for us, which was a big challenge when we moved from location 1 to our bigger location in Inverness, which is if you've got to add 150 members to your client pool, then you've got to make sure that the standards that got you from 0 to 100 or 120 have to be better to get to 120 to 250. And as the business grows and evolve, you need to spend more time on the things. You need to make sure that these things are systemized, yes, but make sure these standards and the culture doesn't drop off. So I think that's going to be huge for Inverness initially, because Inverness is our main HQ. It is where we built our business. It's where we've been known for. So it's doubling down on that and making sure the staff are in a good position to make sure that's doubled down upon. Then we're opening our second facility in Nairn, which is 20 minutes from Inverness, a smaller suburb, sort of half the size, half the operational capacity, so half the membership, I guess. So our goal will be to get Nairn to about 130 to 140 clients a week. But this time next year, I'd like between Inverness and Nairn to have 400 members across both sites, with 6 trainers looking across both sites, and myself, Amy and Lisa, running the business and doing the other side of the business. We're very clear in what we want to do with our second location, and without getting too ahead of myself, I kind of do know where I want my third as well. Although I've never said that. I don't even know if I've really.
We're about to get an FMA exclusive here.
FMA exclusive, but I do know. I think going from 1 to 2 almost feels harder than opening your first gym, because I think you open your first gym totally ignorant to anything, and you don't know much. You're young. You have we opened our first gym with 2 or 3 grand in the bank, So, but now with one gym, you spend so much time. You build the one gym to this point. It takes 5-6 years. You know what goes into it, and I've always felt a big resistance to gym too. Before I looked at gym second, third, fourth sites, and people did it and thought, they can't be doing that first gym very well. If they're too, I always thought, you go wide or you go deep. And I always thought our goal as a gym is to go deep and go deeper and deeper and deeper with the one gym and make the best one gym in the country, sort of thing. But I've come to realise that we've spent so much time doing that, and I feel we've almost, like, we're just at a point where we've gone so deep, and we've had the one gym for 6-7 years now. So it's not, I don't even think we're not growing too fast. I know that, because we've proved to ourselves we can do it over this long. And it's not only ourselves, but it's the staff. I wanted something for the staff to be excited about, to grow through as well. It gives them opportunity to grow and mold the business. We have 2-3 gyms. It's a bigger and probably potentially more exciting business to be a part of than one gym, because there's more growth and opportunity for them as well, because there's a limit, I guess, when you have one. So yeah, and then 3 gyms, and then I've not thought past the 3rd gym. And obviously that won't happen until we have got the proof of concept and we're at our maybe 60 or 70% of our operational capacity in our 2nd gym. So I've got a time frame in mind in terms of how I'd want to do that. Have the 3 gyms. So 3 gyms would probably equal 500 to 550 members across 3 sites, probably now 3 trainers. And that's where we see the future of the business over the next 3 years. Whether the 3rd one happens or not, I don't know, but I just think if we prove to ourselves we can do 2, we can do 3. We've proved to ourselves we can replicate it. It's not a fluke. And I think that's been a big part of the decision as well. It's almost like, I know it's not a fluke because how much work I put into it. And I'm doing us a disservice for that. But it's always back of mind and thinking, could I do that elsewhere? Because I've only had the one, it's just been, it's one if I look back in 10 years and I saw somebody else do that gym, and that gym, these locations, and I didn't do it, would I be able to look at myself in the mirror? Probably not. Because I knew deep down I wanted to do it. And I let my fear and let my own obstacles get the better of me, whereas that would go against what I talk about in the book and what I've always said to clients for the last 5 years. So why would I say it to clients if I can't even back it up myself? And that's been a big part of the decision.
Amazing. Well, we can't wait to help you pre-launch the venue number 2 and get those clients in the door before they even open.
Yeah.
And before we wrap things up, I have one last question. Now, I have preempted you, so you had some time to think about this.
I saw that.
So if you were Prime Minister for a day and could choose one thing to impact the population to be fitter, healthier, happier, what would that thing be?
I think more money has got to be put into the fitness industry. Has got to be thought a bit more seriously. Like when you saw through COVID, and it really, really grates me a wee bit how you think about how pubs and restaurants and fast food places were open like way before gyms, and that is such a short-sighted mindset. So whether it's UK Active, where it's the government, where it's both work together, but I think it will get better over time naturally because the industry gets bigger, and as more money gets into the industry, obviously the government get more interested in it. So because it's a bigger industry, but it's not the same as hotels and pubs and restaurants. I get that, but it's got to be thought about more seriously because it takes pressure for the NHS. It takes more money's got to go into like kids and schools, and I think PE's got to become a daily thing rather than a once or twice a week thing. I think education in terms of like not only fitness, but I think financial fitness is a big thing as well. That, if kids grow up not valuing their health and fitness because they never do PE and because their mums and dads never valued it because they never went to school, it creates a bad line for like the obesity of the nation, I guess. But also, one thing I'm always staggered about you never learn in school is like how to invest money, how to look your money hygiene, almost your financial fitness. So your physical fitness, you got your mental fitness, and you got your financial fitness. And I think if those 3 things work well, probably sales. You could talk about sales. I think if you learn sales in school, you probably get a better career than learning some of the other things you learn in school. That's probably fair to say.
Yeah, I think skills, sales is such an important skill for anyone to really have to kind of maneuver through life.
Because I think the countries are so tuned into this thing. You go to school, you go to university, and then you go and do this, and this. There's a timeline in place, whereas I think now the world will change over the next 20 years because so much information is freely available on YouTube and whatnot. But yeah, I think more has got to be put into like the education system in terms of mental fitness, be that mentors, coaches, people like Paul Mark going into schools and more readily, and having them everywhere because they're role models, because they teach kids good lessons and they're not going to make mistakes that they made. Having financial coaches and mentors going into schools and talking to kids about money so they don't get into big, huge student loan debt or huge credit card debt, or don't start buying 10 pairs of trainers in Klarna, when they're 20 because their mates are doing it. It's a done thing. People have got to know the importance behind those 3 things. And the physical thing is obviously natural to me because I've got a gym. And when I grew up, I played football every day. And every kid's, I think when every child's got like an outlook like that physically. It might just be going to PE every day, it might be playing football, it might be playing rugby, it might be dancing, running, whatever it might be. But I think when kids have that passion physically, and so many good traits are learned through sport, not only physically but psychologically as well, the social aspect of it, the competitive nature of it, because I think to be good in life, to achieve what you want to achieve in life, you've got to have a certain edge of competitiveness, not only with the industry you're in, but also on yourself.
You're actually the third person who's played football at a high level that I've spoken to in the last couple of days. And what I've kind of seen from all those people is that, it's a sport, but it's also a discipline. So if you get into a sport at an early age or some sort of fitness routine, you pick up a discipline. I think that's something that's missing with a lot of people as they grow up. There's nothing that they are disciplined around, and discipline is essential to have success, especially in the business world, right? Like you have to be disciplined and be consistent with what you're doing. So I think if that was ingrained much earlier, then there'd be a lot more healthier and happier people.
I don't know if that answers your question, because I started talking about. What did I start talking about?
No, but I agree with everything you said in terms of, people should be educated financially, and sales is something that can be taught, should be taught. Well, sales is a skill that would be very, very helpful for most people.
Yeah, I think if you learn those four things in school, the importance behind those four things: sales, financial, physical, mental fitness, plus more money, more the industry as a whole, the fitness industry as a whole is thought about in the same line as like the NHS almost, because the fitness industry helps the NHS. The NHS isn't under so much strain if people are healthier and fitter. I'm not saying that's the root of every problem, but it's got to go a long way. So I think that's probably, along with the other maybe ones that
yeah, amazing.
Reduction in VAT would be nice as well.
Yeah, well, you're not the first person to say that. Actually, we'll go ahead and wrap things up there. But thank you so much for being a client of FMA. You've been a value client for I think 3 years now, and thank you for coming down to the podcast and being on the show.
Pleasure, thanks.
If you enjoy the episode, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and share on social media.